After 12 years abroad, I came home to surprise my daughter and grandkids, and found her on her knees, in a gray maid's uniform, scrubbing the marble floor of the house I had bought her as a wedding gift. Her husband's mother pointed a manicured finger at me and said, "The staff uses the back door," then told my daughter to escort this old man out. My daughter flinched, dropped her sponge, and whispered, "Dad?" while they ordered her to get rid of me like a stray. What would you do if you were me? If you have the patience, read this to the end and tell me honestly if I went too far, and if you think I was right, say so. Old men like me rarely get a jury, but we still need a verdict. My name is Daniel Reed. I'm 68, a retired civil engineer, a widower, and a grandfather of 2. For 12 years I worked overseas in the Middle East, chasing big construction contracts in the heat and sand, and sending almost every spare dollar back to Colorado so my only daughter, Emily, would never have to live the way her mother and I did. Before I left, I built her future the only way I knew how, with my own hands. A 4-bedroom house in a Denver suburb, solid and modest, finished the year she married a young man named Tyler Keller. At the wedding, I gave her the keys and said, "This is yours." The deed stayed in my name for tax reasons, I told her. The truth was, I grew up poor, and I never trusted the world enough to give away my last safety net. I thought I'd sign it over when I came home for good. The plan was simple: work abroad for a few years, pile up money, come back healthy and comfortable. Before you know it, I told Emily, standing at the curb with my suitcase while she cried into my shirt. "Dad, you don't have to go," she said. "I don't need a big house, I just need you." "You're getting both," I told her. "I promise." Before you know it, turned into 12 years. At first, the distance didn't feel so bad. I lived cheap in company housing and wired money every month. Mortgage, taxes, repairs, a little extra whenever Tyler emailed about car trouble or daycare. Emily sent photos. First baby Nora, then baby James. I watched my grandkids grow up as blurry faces on a laptop screen in a noisy camp. Then the calls started changing. Emily was always busy with the kids. Tyler answered instead. "Hey, Daniel, she's out running errands," he'd say. "We're doing okay, but money's tight. Preschool is killing us. Any chance you could—" I told myself it was normal. Young families struggle. Young men hate asking for help. Then it became routine. Then Emily stopped appearing on camera entirely. Connection issues. She's at the store. She's putting the kids down. I should have pushed harder. Instead, I sent more money and worked longer shifts. 5 years ago was the last time I saw her face on a video call. After that, it was photos Tyler forwarded. Staged family shots, kids in Halloween costumes, Emily in the background, always a little out of focus. A year ago, my heart finally complained. I collapsed at a job site in Doha and woke up in a hospital, wires on my chest, a young doctor telling me gently that men my age don't get unlimited chances. "Go home," he said. "If you have things you've been putting off, stop." So I did. I finished the contract, sold what I owned there, transferred my savings, and booked a one-way ticket to Denver. I didn't tell Emily the date. I wanted to ring the bell and surprise everyone. I pictured Nora and James racing down the hall yelling, "Grandpa," and Emily hugging me and calling me an idiot for staying away so long. Instead, I climbed out of a cab in front of a house I barely recognized. The maple sapling I'd planted was now a tall, carefully trimmed tree. The yard was perfect, the kind of lawn that needs a professional service. 2 luxury cars sat in the driveway. New white columns had appeared on the porch. The place screamed money I knew my daughter didn't have. But it was still my house. Same brick Laura had chosen from a catalog at our old kitchen table. Same lines, same windows. My chest tightened with something like pride and dread. I walked up the driveway and pressed the doorbell. A boy opened the door. Skinny, dark-haired, hazel eyes. "Yeah?" he asked. "Hey, buddy," I said, my voice suddenly rough. "You must be James." He frowned. "Mom," he yelled over his shoulder. "There's some old guy at the door." The word hit harder than it should have. Old. Then she appeared. Emily. Her hair, once long and messy, was pulled into a tight bun. She wore a gray dress and a white apron, yellow cleaning gloves on her hands. There was a red mark on her wrist and a smear of something on her cheek. She smelled faintly of bleach even from the doorway. Her eyes ran over my face, searching, and then widened. "Dad?" She took one step toward me. "Emily!" A woman's voice snapped from inside. "Why is the front door open? You know the staff uses the side entrance. And who is that?" A tall woman with carefully frozen blonde hair appeared behind her. Diamonds on her ears, silk blouse, the type of face you only get from money and maintenance. She looked me up and down like I was tracking mud on the rug. "Who is this?" she repeated. Emily swallowed. "This is my father," she said quietly. "Mom, this is Daniel." So this was Tyler's mother, Linda. "Oh," Linda said, eyebrows rising. "The handyman from overseas." I felt heat in my face. "I'm not a handyman," I said evenly. "I'm Emily's father, and this is my house." She laughed. "Your house? That's adorable. This property has belonged to my husband and me for years. Isn't that right, Tyler?" A man in a dress shirt and half-knotted tie appeared, phone pressed to his ear. Mid-40s, golf course tan, the easy confidence of someone who has never had a bill go to collections. He ended his call and frowned at me. "Sir, I don't know what you've been told," he said, "but this is my parents' home. Emily lives here with us. You can't just show up and make claims." I looked at my daughter. Her eyes were shiny, but she wouldn't meet my gaze. "Tyler," she murmured, "maybe we should—" "Emily, not now," he said sharply. "Take James to the kitchen. We'll handle this." "We," not we, including her. I ignored him. "Tyler," I said, "I paid for this house. I wired you money for years. The deed is in my name." Linda crossed her arms. "We refinanced years ago," she said, "in exchange for the support you provided. It's all documented. The house is legally ours now. Perhaps you forgot what you signed at your age." My heart stuttered. "I never signed anything like that," I said. Tyler sighed like a man dealing with an inconvenient client. "Mr. Reed, it's really not appropriate for you to come here and upset everyone. Emily works here. She has a room out back and a very generous arrangement. If you want to see her, you make an appointment. Today is not the day." "Works here?" I repeated. "In a uniform?" "She helps with the house," Linda said. "After all, we took her in when you disappeared. The least she can do is contribute. Now, if you don't mind, the staff uses the side entrance." I felt something inside me go very still. I looked at Emily one more time. "Is this what you want?" I asked her quietly. Her lip trembled. "Dad, please just go," she whispered. "I'll call you later. I promise." "Emily," Tyler snapped. I stepped back. "I'll go," I said. "But this is not over." Linda's smile sharpened. "Oh, I think it is," she said. "If Emily wants to keep living here, she won't bring strangers to our door again." They closed the door in my face. For a long moment I stood on the porch, hands still half raised, staring at the wood. It felt like the house itself was looking back at me, ashamed. Then I walked away. I checked into a cheap motel off the interstate, the kind with buzzing neon and thin walls. I sat on the bed, opened the worn leather folder I'd carried across the ocean, and pulled out the documents that mattered. On top was the deed. Grantor: Daniel Reed. Grantee: Daniel Reed. No transfer, no refinance, no Keller anywhere on that page. My pulse picked up. Maybe Linda was lying. Maybe there had been a refinance, but the title stayed with me. Either way, I needed to know exactly what they'd done. The next morning, I went to the county clerk's office, took a number, and waited under fluorescent lights while people argued with clerks about parking tickets and marriage licenses. When it was my turn, I slid my ID across the counter. "I need the latest deed and any transfers for 412 Maple Grove Lane," I said. The woman behind the desk, Melanie on her name tag, typed for a minute, then frowned. "We've got the original purchase deed from 14 years ago," she said, "and a quitclaim deed recorded 8 years ago, from Daniel Reed to Linda and Charles Keller, Tyler's parents." "Can I get a copy?" I asked. She printed it and handed it over. There was my name at the top, my address, my so-called signature at the bottom. Only it wasn't my signature. It looked like someone had traced it from another document. Familiar, but wrong. The notary stamp was from a bank branch I'd never visited, dated at a time I was 7,000 miles away. I walked out of that office with the paper in my hand and one thought in my mind. They hadn't just humiliated my daughter. They had stolen my house. I could have marched back to Maple Grove and called the police on the spot. But years of building things had taught me something. You don't swing a wrecking ball until you know exactly what's behind the wall. So I made a plan. For 3 days, I walked past the house like any other old man getting his exercise. I learned their schedule. At 7:30, Tyler and his father, Charles, left in pressed shirts and shiny shoes. At 8:15, Nora came out in a private school uniform and climbed into Linda's Lexus. At 9, Linda left for yoga. By 9:30, Emily would come out with trash bags or a vacuum, moving fast and quiet, always in that gray uniform. On the 4th day, she walked out the side gate with a basket of laundry. No one else was in sight. I stepped out from behind the maple tree. "Em!" She jumped, the basket slipping, clothes spilling onto the concrete. "Dad!" she hissed. "What are you doing here? You can't be here if they see you." "I just need 5 minutes," I said. "Then I'm gone, I promise." Her eyes flicked toward the house. "They'll fire me," she whispered. "They'll take the kids. You don't know what they can do." "I know what they've already done," I said. I handed her the forged deed. "Do you remember me signing anything like this?" She scanned the page. When she reached the signature, her hand started shaking. "Tyler said you signed it at the bank," she whispered. "He brought it home already stamped and said it was just to formalize the help you were giving us. He said you didn't want the responsibility anymore." "I was overseas when this was supposedly signed," I said. "I never saw this paper. They faked my signature, Em." She sank onto an overturned bucket, the laundry forgotten. "I tried to call you," she said. "When things got bad. Your number didn't work. Emails bounced. Tyler said you'd changed everything and didn't want to talk to us anymore. He said you were angry we needed so much help." I felt sick. "My number never changed," I said quietly. "My email works. He cut you off from me, not the other way around." She wiped at her eyes. "When he lost his job, his parents stepped in," she said. "They said they'd save us, but only if the house was in their name. It was the condition for them paying the bills. Then they said I should help out around the house more. Then they said I could stay with the kids, but not for free. Now I work from 6 in the morning till 10 at night. They pay me just enough to say it's a job, then subtract rent. If I complain, they remind me they can afford lawyers and I can't." "Do you want to stay?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "No," she whispered. "But if I leave, they'll say I'm abandoning Nora and James. They've told me more than once that I'm not stable enough to have them on my own." I put a hand on her shoulder. "You're not crazy," I said. "You're trapped. There's a difference. And they didn't just steal from you. They stole from me. From your mother's memory." She bit her lip. "What can you even do, Dad? They own everything. They have money, lawyers, friends in nice places." A strange calm settled over me. "They think I'm just some old man who doesn't understand what he signed," I said. We'll let them think that, while we pull the floor out from under them. If you were me, would you walk away and hope your daughter somehow survived that house? Or would you burn their comfortable life down around them, even if everyone called you cruel for it? I called an old friend, Mark Henderson, a former concrete guy turned small-time real estate broker. We met at a diner with cracked booths and burnt coffee. I laid everything in front of him. The years abroad, the money transfers, the forged deed, Emily in a maid's uniform. He read the paper, whistled, and tapped the signature. "This is sloppy," he said. "They didn't even hire a decent forger. I know a lawyer who hates people like this." The lawyer was Rachel Klein, mid-40s, sharp eyes, office cluttered with files stacked in precarious towers. She listened as I told the story again and examined the documents. "At a minimum, this is forgery and fraud," she said. "You were out of the country when this was supposedly signed. We can prove that with your passport and employment records. The quitclaim deed can be voided. But there's more." She'd already checked the county records. "They used the property to take out a large home equity loan 2 years ago," she said. "They've been borrowing against your house like it's an ATM. I asked how much. She told me. It was more than I'd paid for the house. "If the original transfer is fraudulent," she continued, "every loan after that is built on a lie. The bank will come after them hard. The DA may press charges. It won't be quick, but it's serious." "I don't just want it fixed on paper," I said. "I want Emily out of there and safe. And I want them to feel it, but I don't want the kids dragged through hell." "Then we do this in 2 tracks," Rachel said. "1, legal. I'll file a complaint with the district attorney, hire a handwriting expert, and move to void the fraudulent deed. 2, practical. We get your daughter and grandchildren physically away from them and into a place that's clearly her residence. That weakens any custody threats they throw around." "Can I afford all this?" I asked. She flipped through my bank statements, pension records, and a note about a little cabin I owned up in the mountains. "You're not rich, but you're not broke," she said. "We'll structure fees so you're not wiped out. Honestly, I want this case. People like the Kellers assume no one will ever push back." For the next 2 weeks, I stayed away from Maple Grove. The handwriting expert produced a report that called the signature a high-probability simulation. Rachel filed everything with the DA's office and the civil court. The wheels began to turn. Meanwhile, I made sure to coincidentally be on the sidewalk 3 blocks from the house when Nora and James walked home from school on the days Linda didn't pick them up. The first time, Nora stared at me like she was trying to remember a face from a dream. "Hi," I said. "You're Nora." She nodded cautiously. "I'm your grandpa," I said. "Your mom's dad. We met when you were very little." "They said you left because you didn't like kids," she said, testing. "Because we were too expensive." My throat tightened. "They were wrong," I said. "I left to earn money for all of you. I came back because I missed you." James squinted up at me. "Do you have stories about the desert?" he asked. "If your mom says it's okay, I'll tell you all of them," I promised. We walked together until the house came into view. I turned off down a side street before we reached it. 2 days later, Rachel called. "The DA has opened an investigation," she said. "It will take time, but we can start civil action now. File a notice of dispute on the title, freeze any new loans, and start eviction as the legal owner. It will be noisy." "Good," I said. "Noisy is fine." Then Emily called from a borrowed phone. Her voice shook. "They're talking about you," she said. "Tyler and his mom. They think you're going to stir up trouble. Linda said they should shut you down before you mess things up. She said they still have that power of attorney paper you signed years ago when you let Tyler pay bills while you were away." I remembered it. A limited document at a small bank that I had later revoked. In the wrong hands, it could be twisted. "Tyler said they'll use it to prove you wanted them to have everything," Emily whispered. "And if I side with you, I can pack my bags alone. That settled it. If they wanted a fight, they'd get one. Rachel suggested serving them quietly. I suggested the opposite. Linda and Tyler are hosting some investor party next Saturday, I said. Serve them then, in front of everyone. She hesitated. You're asking me to help humiliate them. Yes, I said. They humiliated my daughter in her own home. I want their friends to see who they really are. As long as we keep the kids out of the blast radius, I can live with that, she said. The morning of the party, I met Emily at a coffee shop. She'd borrowed the minivan to get groceries. Today, I told her, around noon, you take Nora and James and drive to this address. I slid a folded paper across the table. She opened it. What is this? A 3-bedroom rental I signed for yesterday, I said. Good neighborhood, good schools. The lease is in my name for now, but I'll sign it over when the dust settles. You'll have your own place. No uniforms. Tears filled her eyes. They'll say I kidnapped the kids, she whispered. You're their mother, I said. You're allowed to take them to a safe home. Rachel is ready for that argument. Just do not go back there today, no matter what they say. Promise me. She nodded. At 1:30, after Emily had driven away with the kids, I walked up the driveway of my stolen house. Laughter, clinking glasses, and music drifted from the backyard. Men in polo shirts stood around the grill. Women in light dresses chatted by the pool that had been dug where my wife once planned a vegetable garden. Tyler saw me first. He stalked over, anger already on his face. What are you doing here? He hissed. You're not invited. I know, I said. I'm here anyway. I'd like to speak with Linda and Charles. Linda appeared as if conjured. Mr. Reed, she said with a brittle smile. You have a gift for making a scene. This is a private event. Perfect, I said. I need witnesses. She frowned. Witnesses for what? For this. At that cue, a man in a plain suit stepped through the gate. Another followed. Then Rachel. Linda and Charles Keller? The first man asked, flashing a badge. Tyler Keller? Conversations froze. Someone turned off the music. Phones started to rise, subtle at first, then openly. I'm Detective Alvarez with the District Attorney's Office, he said. We're here regarding a complaint of real estate fraud involving this property. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. That's absurd, Linda snapped. This is our home. We saved Emily from financial ruin. Mrs. Keller, Alvarez said calmly, we're not arguing facts with you today. We're serving notice of an investigation and related civil actions. A process server handed her a thick envelope. One for Charles. One for Tyler. Tyler slapped his away. It landed on the patio. This is harassment by a bitter old man, he said loudly, pointing at me. He doesn't even remember what he signed. He gave us this house, and now he's trying to take it back. Actually, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I remember exactly what I signed, and what I didn't. I held up a copy of the forged deed. You took my house by faking my signature, I said. You used it as collateral for loans, and while you lived like kings, you put my daughter in a maid's uniform under the same roof. That ends today. Linda's face twisted. We took her in when you abandoned her, she snapped. She was drowning in bills. She couldn't manage a household. We gave her stability. Stability, I repeated. As long as she scrubbed your floors and answered to staff, Rachel stepped forward. For everyone's awareness, she said clearly. Mr. Reed was working overseas when this deed was supposedly signed here in Denver. His passport and employment records prove it. A handwriting expert has already found the signature to be a likely forgery. That's why the DA is here. One guest in a blazer shifted uncomfortably. Linda, is that true? He asked. You said the house was part of your equity. We were going to sign into that development deal based on that. Linda's smile cracked. This is all being twisted, she said. Of course it's legal. Our lawyer will clear it up. Good, Rachel said. You'll need one. Alvarez added, In the meantime, Mr. Reed has filed for an injunction and eviction as owner of record. The court will decide. But any attempt to refinance, sell, or encumber this property further will now be blocked. Around us, guests were quietly gathering their things. The man in the blazer handed Linda a folder back. Given all this, he said, I'll hold off on signing anything. Within 10 minutes, half the crowd was gone. The perfect backyard scene was ruined. Balloons wilting, drinks abandoned, the Kellers standing there clutching legal envelopes. I turned to leave. Tyler stepped toward me. You think you've won? He said through his teeth. Emily is nothing without us. She'll come crawling back. You can't protect her forever. One hospital stay and it all collapses. I put her new house in a trust, I said quietly. If I die, it goes to her and the kids. Not to you, not to anyone named Keller. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. That evening I drove to the rental house. The porch light was on. Inside, boxes were stacked against the walls. Nora and James sat on the floor playing a game. Emily sat on the couch watching them with a dazed look. She stood when she saw me. What happened? She asked. They were served, I said. In front of everyone. The DA is investigating. The court is freezing the title and hearing our case. They know you're gone. They know the kids are with you. She sagged with relief. Then panic flickered. What if they come here? They can knock, I said. They can yell. But this is your residence now. They have no right to drag the kids out of here. If they try, Rachel will have the police on speed dial. I set my folder on the coffee table. These are all my accounts, the cabin, everything, I told her. Rachel's drafting documents to make you and the kids my beneficiaries in a way no one can hijack. This time I'm not trusting anything verbal. Dad, you don't have to. I do, I said. I missed birthdays and school plays and years of your life because I thought sending money was enough. I'm not going to let the people who took advantage of that keep a single thing. She cried then, not the silent tears from the backyard, but loud, shaking sobs that had been building for years. I put my arm around her and let her cry into my shoulder, like she had at the curb 12 years earlier. The legal fight wasn't quick. The Kellers hired an expensive lawyer who tried every trick, claimed I had gifted the house, waved the old power of attorney around as proof I trusted Tyler with my affairs, hinted I was confused and vindictive, but facts are stubborn. The passport stamps showed I wasn't even in the country when the deed was signed. The handwriting experts shredded their forgery. Bank records proved the flow of money from my account to theirs for years. Emails Emily had saved showed Tyler controlling every communication, canceling calls, telling her I was done helping. When they tried to claim Emily was unfit as a mother, Rachel produced photos and school records and statements from teachers. Emily wasn't perfect, but she was there, concerts, appointments, homework. Tyler and his parents had been too busy to attend, but not too busy to collect my deposits. The DA eventually charged them with fraud and filing false instruments. The criminal case will take a long time to finish, and for all I know, they'll talk their way into some plea. But the civil court moved faster. The judge voided the forged deed, restored title to my name, and granted my eviction request. The Kellers got 30 days to vacate, mostly for the neighbors' sake. On move-out day, I drove to Maple Grove. A sheriff's deputy stood by as movers hauled boxes out. Neighbors watched from their lawns, pretending not to. Linda stalked over to me. I hope you're happy, she said. You destroyed our life, our home, our reputation, all over a house you didn't even live in. You built your life on a lie, I said. I just stopped holding it up. Tyler came down the steps with a box. He set it down harder than he needed to. Emily will regret this, he said. She can't make it without us. You're one fall away from a nursing home. Then what? Then she'll still have a roof over her head that you can't touch, I said. I put her new place and this property into a trust with your names nowhere on it. He stared at me, realization dawning that the free ride was truly over. I left them on the curb and walked into my house. Inside, the rooms were mostly empty. Their fancy furniture was gone, leaving pale outlines on the walls. But the bones were the same. The staircase where Emily used to slide down the rail, the kitchen where Laura once danced to old songs while stirring soup. I stood in the foyer where I had seen my daughter on her knees in a maid's uniform. I imagined her there again, then replaced that image with one of her laughing in a t-shirt and jeans with a set of keys in her hand. I didn't move back in. Too many ghosts. Instead, after the dust settled, I signed a new deed in Rachel's office. Grantor, Daniel Reed. Grantee, Emily Reed, as trustee of the Reed Family Trust. The trust terms were ironclad. The property couldn't be sold, mortgaged, or signed away without strict conditions. If anything happened to Emily, it would pass directly to Nora and James. No spouse, no in-law, no helpful manager could worm their way into it again. When I gave her the documents, she held them like they might disappear. "Are you sure?" she asked. "After everything that happened under that roof, I don't even know if I want the place." "You don't have to keep it forever," I said. "You just have to know that whatever happens to it is your decision, not anyone else's." She eventually sold the Maple Grove house through the trust and bought a smaller place closer to the kids' school. A new family lives under that maple tree now. They bought the house fair and square with clean papers. When I drive by, I see a toddler running through the sprinklers where my grandkids used to be trapped inside helping set the table for people who considered them props. As for me, I split my time between my cabin in the mountains and Emily's new home. I patch fences, fix leaky sinks, help with science projects, and sit in metal bleachers at games. Nora rolls her eyes at my bad jokes, which is her right as a teenager in training. James tells his friends his grandpa fought paper criminals, which is his version of bank fraud. Sometimes we see the Kellers around town. They still live here, but in a smaller, older house, without a pool and without the flashy cars. When our carts cross paths at the grocery store, they look away. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a tight resentment that bounces off me like rain off a roof. Do I wish I'd come home earlier, every single day? Do I wish I'd trusted less and checked more? Yes. I lost years I can't get back. Emily lost pieces of herself learning to say yes, ma'am, in a house that should have been her safe place. I can't change any of that. What I could do, what I did, was make sure the people who turned my daughter into a servant in her own home never profited from it. I pulled the ground out from under them, dragged their fraud into the light, and cut them off from every dollar they thought they'd squeezed out of an old fool. Some people would say I should have forgiven, let them keep the house, kept the peace for the kids' sake. Maybe they're right, but when I remember Emily's wrists raw from chemicals, and Linda calling her staff in the doorway of the house I built, my sympathy dries up. So tell me honestly, was I right to take back everything, the house, the money, their reputation, and leave them standing on the curb with their boxes? Or, in the end, did I go too far for a grandfather who just wanted his daughter to stand in her own doorway with her head held high?
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.